Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the West Ham Way Fantasy League. Deadline day is fast approaching, not for the transfer window, but for your FPL season. So make sure you enter the West Ham Way Fantasy League. The code will be down in the description. Now, I asked you guys on Twitter to send me a few of your teams. I want to see what we're working with this year, see how good my chances are of winning. Obviously, if I do win, I won't be taking the amazing prizes on show. Which will include potentially a signed shirt, a ticket to one of the pre-match events with the boys, Dave and X. Those are always really, really good to look forward to, and other prizes too, which will be later confirmed. But yeah, like I said, I took to Twitter to see what teams you guys are working with. And I've also got a special guest coming on this episode. You're all going to know who he is. Proper West Ham fan, lovely lad. And we're going to take a look at his team, his thoughts about both his FPL season and the West Ham season. So, yeah, I mean, it's an exciting episode. And, we'll have to take a little look at the teams. You can see I'm in your top right-hand corner and the team is here. Now, we're going to be doing this based on a 1 out of 5, just, giving my little thoughts on it, where I think they need to improve, where I think they've done really, really well. And, this first team is from at Stephen Jes Smith. He has got Onana and Areola as the goalkeepers. Solid picks. I think Onana will play most games for Manchester United. Obviously, some of the £5 million goalkeepers, such as like Ramsdale, could be at risk because obviously David Raya might be signing for them. Also, Robert Sanchez has just signed for Chelsea, so they might be in danger of some rotation. And I think Areola is a very safe choice. Simply because, I think he could potentially get that number 1 role this season. And for £4 million, I think that's a really good signing. His back 5 is Alexander-Arnold, Ruben Diaz, Urian Timber, Kirkez of Bournemouth, and Craig Dawson. Now, I've got to give some props for getting our boy Craig Dawson in this team. Whether he's doing that off of nostalgia, whether he genuinely thinks he's going to be a good shout for the FPL season, I'm not entirely sure. I can imagine from this he's going to be playing a back 3 with Urian Timber, Ruben Diaz, and Alexander-Arnold. Alexander-Arnold is actually someone that I considered putting in the team, but I don't think he's worth the £8 million. I think, why would you have Alexander-Arnold in the team when you can have, say, Martinelli in your midfield, or, for the extra £0.5 million, you can get someone like Bruno Fernandes, and then, you spend the money cheaply on someone like Gabriel, or even if you want to go premium, someone like Trippier, who later in the season, after the game weeks get a little bit nicer for him, probably will incur quite a lot of points for Newcastle. So I think Alexander-Arnold is probably a little bit of a waste of money, but I can see why people put him in there. Urian Timber, for me, in danger of rotation. So again, get for Arsenal. Seems like he's nailed on for that left back spot, but he does have competition for both Zinchenko and obviously from Kieran Tierney, who may make a push for that 11. But I think it's always good to get an attacking-minded player in, and he does look really solid for them. Ruben Diaz, 5.5 million. I think there's better options out there. Luke Shaw, I think, is better value. Estupinian as well with the game week he's having. Interested to see Estupinian from Stephen. Moving on to the midfield, Saka, Bowen, Eze, Rashford, Tonali. I can imagine... Now, I'm not actually sure if he's playing with 3 up top or 2 up top and 5 in midfield. I know Adebayo was very prolific in the Championship last season, but is he gonna be playing him up top? I'm not entirely sure, but we'll leave that for Stephen to decide. Saka's nailed on for me, good pick. Jarrod Bowen, I mean, come on, boys, we're West Ham fans here. We have to be picking Jarrod Bowen against Bournemouth at least. We have to get some West Ham players in here. Others, what we're doing with ourselves. Ibira Eze, I think for 6.5 million, really good start of the season, fixtures wise, good price. I think he's had a really good pre-season, could do very well. Rashford as well. I mean, if you don't have both Rashford and Bruno, there is a debate to be had as to which one you sort of get in. I do like Bruno. I think is a penalty taker for United, and the 0.5 I think is very important. But yeah, I think Rashford is a very good shout. Tonali's an interesting one for me. I think there are... Now, obviously, he's got nothing in the bank at the moment. He's spent all of his money. But, I think you probably spend that tiny bit extra. If you let's say you got out went for a £4.5 million goalkeeper and a £5 million defender. You then got £6.5 million to pay, and you can put in someone like Matoma or Mbermo. And I think that makes a lot more sense than Tonali, who will be more defensively minded. So I don't like the Tonali shout. Good player, but not convinced on him. And Watkins, Haaland, and Adebayo. I think Adebayo is an interesting player. £5 million. Probably going to get quite a lot of game times for Luton. Is he going to score many goals? I don't know. Some teams do. Some teams do come up and score loads of goals. But Watkins and Haaland, I think, are the best two strikers you can go for right now, with the rotations going on. A lot of people going for Evan Ferguson and João Pedro. Again, I don't know who's starting the season for Brighton. So then for me, I'm not entirely sure who to go for. But I think with this team, I think it's in the middle of the ballpark. There's things I love about this team, there's things I don't like about this team. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 for Stephen. But to be fair, it's a very, very solid team. We now move on to Paul at PAWLSLAX. He has gone for Onana as well. So, I think he's one of the most owned players in FPL. So there's absolutely no surprise to me. James Trafford is the second choice. Now, I've always been a very big advocate of having your second goalkeeper as a £4 million player. I don't really think you should for as well. I like the Trafford shout, but probably not, like I said, if you got two goalkeepers. Some people do like to go for rotation, but I think having a 5 million and a 4.5 million, I don't like. If you go 4.5 makes sense. If you go 4.55, I just think it's a bit of a waste of money. Alexander-Arnold, like I said, my thoughts on him. Very stacked defence here. A lot of people this year are going for 3 defenders. I'm not exactly sure what Paul's going for here. Alexander-Arnold, Stones, Estupiñán, Shaw, and Trippier, the 2 most expensive defenders he's got in his back line, which is very interesting to see. Again, I'm not sure how he's going to set up here. I mean, we're moving to the midfield. He's got Trossard. Don't like the rotation risk. I don't think he's a great shout. I think for £7 million, you'd rather go 0.5 down and get Eze or Matoma or Mbermo. Jared Bowen, like I said, he's our boy, but got to chuck him in there. Bukayo Saka nailed on. Fernandez, brilliant shout. Paqueta's an interesting one. There should be a video coming out on the channel soon, probably once this video's been released, about his situation, how he might move to Manchester City. So he actually could be a massive outside shout in FPL this season if he does get his move to Manchester City, which I do not want to happen at all. I really, really hope that we do keep on to him. But, he'll get most games for West Ham. I don't think his numbers in FPL will be that good, despite the fact that he'll probably play quite well. But it is what it is. Darwin Núñez, Julian Alvarez and Watkins. No Haaland kills this draft, I'm afraid. It really does. The thing with Haaland is he's 85% owned roughly in the FPL. So, if you go for someone different to Erling Haaland, fair enough, you might make more points than him in a game week. But, most people are going to make going to pick Erling Haaland. So you're only in the bottom 15%. So let's say there is a week where Haaland does outscore you because he's not in your team and you could have had points getting him in. That's 85% of people who have got more points compared to your other striker. The risk is not there for me. I think enough posing in where if you want to do well in your leagues, you kind of just have to follow the crowd and go for Erling Haaland. And also, he's probably going to score a lot of goals this season. It's Erling Haaland. He probably is. And I actually don't like a lot of the striker options this year. And there's not very many strong ones. And also, Darwin Núñez, I think, probably won't get as much game time maybe as Gakpo. Not entirely sure. I think Erling Haaland just breaks this draft for me. It wouldn't really be that difficult to get him in. I mean, I love the Alvarez shout. I think he'll get some minutes for City, but he's not nailed on. I'm really a big fan of Alvarez. Watkins is a good shout, like I said, but you need to raise about £5 million or 4.5, sorry, to get Erling Haaland. If you just took Alexander-Arnold out and got a £5 million defender, that's the difference of 3 million. So you've only got to make like 1.5 million back. Let's say you got rid of Trippier for a £5 million defender as well. You get Haaland in there and you've still got a very, very strong team. Or even just go for a 4.5 instead of Onana. Yeah, I mean, I like the team. I think that there's too much money spent in the defence. That's not going to win you many points in FPL simply because, unless you're fullbacks are scoring lots of goals, which is obviously the risk in putting Alexander-Arnold in there, because if he does get loads of goals and assists, he's going to be making loads of points, because obviously the points you get for goals and assists is more in a defender than it would be a midfielder or a striker. I tend to stack the midfield because I just think that's the best shout. They're going to be getting forward more and they're fairly cheap. But yeah, I think if you've got Alexander-Arnold in there, I think you cannot have Trippier in there. You just can't. You need to spread your funds a tiny bit better than that. I think as well, if you haven't got Haaland in there, you need Salah, or you need to have Harry Kane in there, especially if he doesn't move. There's not enough big name players in here for me that are going to win you those points. I mean, some of these players are expensive for a reason. But yeah, that one for me, I think is going to get a 2 out of 5. Simply not having Haaland in there, 2 stack defense. I like some of the shouts in there, but yeah, that's not the best rating from me. And then we have JXSON_WHU on Twitter. He's gone for Martinez and Arrizabalaga in goal. Again, I don't like this simply because I just think, why have 2 £5 million players? I mean, you've got £10 million invested in your goalkeeper, and that is 1/10 of your budget, and only one of them is ever going to play. You can only play one goalkeeper, and let's be honest, they don't get that many points because they just get clean sheets. So I think you'd save yourself 1 million there if you were able to get him down. I like Martinez is okay. I mean, to be honest, though, I do think you've chosen the 2 worst £5 million shouts in goal. Ramsdale I get, and Onana I get. But Martinez, you won't get any clean sheets for Villa. Arrizabalaga, rotation. I'm not a big fan of that. Martinez in defence, I think he's a card risk for sure. And will he play every minute for United? I'm not sure. Injuries as well is a bit of a concern. John Stones, like the shout. Timber, we know what I've said about Timber. Trippier, I think, will come into play, especially in my team, later on in the season, potentially. But as of right now, I think the rotation is really difficult for him in terms of the schedule that they've got coming up. Bell, 4.4 million. I see what you're trying to do there. Obviously, you're not going to play all 5 defenders, I imagine. So it is worth going for a cheap one there. Diaby, massive shout. I love Diaby. I think he'll actually do really well for Villa. Matoma, again, really, really good. Lucas Paqueta, you know what I think about him. I like Paqueta. I don't think he'll do too well on FPL. Odegaard, if you're getting Odegaard, please get Bruno Fernandes in. He's on penalties for Manchester United. He's been really good in pre-season. Odegaard, I think he did score more points than him last year, but are Arsenal really going to replicate what they did last year? I'm not sure. And of course, 3 drafts with Jared Bowen in it, guys. My draft, Jared Bowen as well. You love to see it. We're West Ham fans here. We've got to chuck it in there. It's the West Ham Way Fantasy League. Great to see us actually getting, some West Ham players in there. Erling Haaland up top, got to be done. Watkins up top, love it. Darwin up top, my thoughts about him. I can't really work out the sort of formation here. My gut instinct is it's probably a 3-4-3, or maybe a 4-4-2 with Darwin on the bench. But I think if you're gonna have Darwin on the bench, I think even Nicholas Jackson is a better shout than Darwin at the moment, to be honest with you. But this for me again, I think there's some good shouts in there. If you want my advice, which you don't have to take, I'm not an expert on FPL, but I have been playing for quite a few seasons. I like to think I'm quite well informed. Cheaper goalkeeper than Arrizabalaga. I would take out Martinez. Why have Martinez when you can get Gabriel for the same price, or a Stupinian for the same price, who's going to score you, I would imagine, a lot more points. Trippier, I like Trippier. I think he's a good shout, but I would rotate him in later on. Darwin, I think you're probably better off signing like an Evan Ferguson and freeing up funds somewhere else. If you want to have like an outside shout, if you think he might play a game. It's a good side. I'm going to go with a 3 out of 5 for this one as well. Those are my ratings for those 3 teams. Obviously, please do send your teams in to my Twitter at Finchy Riley. It's going to be a very active season. I want to try and do these team ratings at least like once a week, and hopefully we'll be bringing on a couple of special guests. And speaking of special guests, Jamie Siegel is now joining me, and we're going to have a look at his FPL.